Welcome, welcome to the first lecture on transportation problem. The agenda for this class is to help you understand what is transportation problem, and the other agenda is LPP formulation of the transportation problem. First, we will be seeing what is the transportation problem. Suppose say there is a company which has various plants where certain product is produced, right? For example, here there are three plants of the company A, B, C. They have got certain capacity. Like in this example, the capacity for plant A is 60, plant B is 10, and plant C is 100. There are various destinations which will be requiring the product produced at plants A, B, and C. So, say those destinations are D1, D2, D3, and D4. Now, these destinations will be having definite requirement of these products within certain period of time, and that requirement, for example, is 70, 60, 40, and 20. This matrix gives the transportation cost per unit of transportation. Right here, I write it. Figures in matrix indicate cost per unit of transportation. Right? So, for various combinations of plant and destination, this matrix is giving you the cost per unit of transportation. Now, in this situation, your objective becomes to find out how much quantity is to be transported from a particular plant to a destination, particular destination, so that the total cost of transportation is minimum while not violating the capacity and requirement constraint. Okay, simply deciding the quantity to be transported from various plant to various destinations will give you different cost, different total cost of transportation. Your objective is to find out that schedule of transportation which will minimize the total cost of transportation, right? It's not that even though I am calling this problem as a transportation problem and referring to transportation situation only, it's not that this kind of problem is helpful only in transportation kind of situation. Anything which can be structured into this format, there are something to be written here, something to be written here, and here there is something like a requirement, here there is something like capacity, may not be exactly capacity, and at the intersection of the plant and destination, here there are something. If your problem can be structured into this format, then that also can be solved by the algorithm which I'll be explaining you, under transportation problem category. So the point is, it's not only the transportation problem which will be handled by the algorithm which we will be discussing. Right? Before we see the special algorithm for transportation problem, it is essential for us to see the formulation and see the possibility of solving that LPP formulation by some method like simplex method which we know, right? So we will be pursuing the LPP formulation of the transportation problem, right? So my variable in this problem is xij, that is standing for quantity. I want to decide in this problem quantity to be transported, from plant I to destination J. Right here, you know what are your plant I, A, B, C. I may write that here A, B, and C, and destinations are D1, D2, D3 and D4, right? So you may index them as 1, 2 and 3 and this as simply 1, 2, 3 and 4. So all in all, in this problem, you have 8, how many? 4 into 3, 12 variables you have to decide, right? For example, I'll just write the variables x11, x12, x13, x14, then x21, x22, x23, x24. All right. And then the third group x31, x32, x33, x34. Just to help you know the complete expanse of the formulation, there are 12 variables, right? Now, your objective function, as I have told you, it is minimize z is equal to, all right, you want to minimize the total cost of transportation, right? So this is per unit cost of transportation, means it requires rupees 3 to transport one unit from A to D1, rupees 4 to transport one unit from A to D2, and likewise 12 to transport one unit from A to D3, and so on. So this is the cost per unit of transportation, and these are the units quantity to be transported. Like for example, X32 is the quantity to be transported from 3 means plant C to 2 means destination D2. Okay, so all the meaning of all these 12 terms is clear to you. So you are now in position to write the objective function, this cost per unit of transportation multiplied by corresponding units transported. So 3 into x11 plus 4 into x12 plus 12 into x13 plus 8 into x14 plus 3 into x21 plus 4 into, 2 into x22 plus 8 into x23 plus 3 into x24 plus there will be all 12 terms, not 12, yes, there are 12 terms, 9 into x 31 plus 12 into x 32 plus 19 into x 33 plus 13 into x 34. There are in all 12 terms because there are 12 cost per unit of transportation and 12 quantities to be transported. Okay. So if I want to write it in a concise form or general form, then I can write it in this form: double summation, okay, Cij into Xij, right, where Cij is the cost per unit of transportation from I to J, plant I to destination J, and Xij, as you already know, is the cost per quantity to be transported from I, plant I to destination J. Okay, now what are the limits of I and J? I varies from 1 to M, for example. In this case, M is 3, and J varies from 1 to N. Okay, N stands for the number of destinations and M stands for number of plants. Okay, so this is in short this objective function. This is in general and this is specific, right? Now subject to constraints, subject to first constraint. Okay, now as far as plant A, I know the capacity of plant A is 60 units. Okay, so plant A cannot transport more than 60 units. And what is the transportation of plant A? It transports to D1, D2, D3 and D4. So corresponding quantities are X11 quantity transported from A to D1, then x1 2 a to d2, x1 3 a to d3, then x1 4. Okay, this sum should all be less than or equal to 60, right? For your understanding, I will write the indices of this 1, 2, and 3. Wherever I mean 1, it stands for first subscript 1, it stands for A. Okay, so you know the association between 1 and A, 2 and D, and 3 and C. Right here also 1 and D1, 2 and D2, 3 and D3, and 4 and D4. Likewise, right? So once I have written first capacity constraint, writing second capacity constraint won't be difficult. It will be simply the quantity to be transported from B, that is 2, x21 plus x22 plus x23 plus x24 will have to be less than equal to the capacity of B, 10, because no plant can transport more than what that plant has, and what that plant has is because of the capacity of the plant. Then the third constraint will be x31 plus x32 plus x33 plus x34. All right, less than equal to capacity of C, that is 100. So these are all capacity constraints. Okay, we'll be writing few more constraints, but I'll be telling you the generalized form of this group of constraint. Okay, right here itself. Okay, so the uh, we are having both looks. One is a specialized look, specialized formulation specific to this problem, and general formulation as well. So these three constraints can be represented by one constraint, by one statement summation. Okay, xij is less than equal to capacities, and capacities I will be representing by bi's, right? So less than equal to bi. Okay, now um, j equal for j equal to 1 to what I have written n, j's limit number of destinations are an. Okay, and for I equal to 1 to 3, you get me? Now, once I will be setting I equal to 1, once I set I equal to 1, so and go on varying j from 1 to n, I expand this summation x11 plus x12 plus x13 plus x14 less than equal to b1, which is 60. And soon I set I equal to 2, I will be getting second constraint, and soon I set I equal to 3, I will be getting third constraint. So these are all capacity constraints. Okay, particularly in transportation problem, we call them as capacity constraint. I don't need to name this group of constraint, right? But it was possible in this problem, so I did. Now, second group of constraint will be every requirement, the destination, every destination requires a certain specific quantity minimum. So, for example, D1 requires 70, right? So where from D1 is getting its supply, it is getting from A, that is 1, B, that is 2, and C, that is 3. So summation x11 plus x21 plus x31 has to be greater than equal to 70. Why greater than? Because whenever I talk about requirement, it is implied that this is minimum. Requirement is minimum. If D1 gets more than 70, that's fine for D1. But if it gets less than 70, D1 remains unsatisfied. Okay, so we will be writing the requirement constraint greater than equal to type, and capacity constraint are always less than equal to type. Okay, so first requirement constraint goes like x 1 1 that is from A to D1, then from B to D1 x21 plus x31. Sum of the quantities transported from A, B and C to 1 has to be greater than equal to 70. Once I put in time for writing this constraint, next constraint can be written just in pattern. Now it will be transportation to D2. So x12 plus x22 plus x32. Second subscript I am setting to 2, right? Should be greater than equal to 60, right? Likewise, third constraint x 13 plus x 23 plus x 33 has to be greater than equal to 20. And lastly, now setting j equal to 4, x14 plus x24 plus x34 should be greater than equal to, I'm sorry, this was required to be 40 and this is required to be 20. So all these are requirement constraints. Okay. All these are requirement constraint. Now, if I want to write the general form of these four equations, okay, which is applicable anywhere in this kind of situation, I can write summation. It sounds to be summation of xij. Now, greater than equal to rj, I'll be writing, okay, requirement stands for, rj stands for requirement. All right. Okay. Now, J I'll keep on setting from 1 to M. 1 to, what I say? 1 to N. Okay. Second subscript I am fixing. First I am fixing it to 1, getting first constraint. Then I am fixing it to 2, getting second constraint. And here the first subscript is varying. 1, 2, 3 in each of the constraints. So I varies from 1 to 3. Now just I will explore first constraint from this generalized form. Okay, I am setting j equal to 1 and I am the summation therefore will be x11 plus x1 x11 plus x21 plus x31 greater than equal to r1 which is 70 which is 60, no, which is 70. Okay, which is 70. Likewise, when I put say j equal to 2, my constraint will read like j I have fixed equal to 2. Second constraint I'll be getting that will be x12 plus x22 plus x32 will be greater than equal to r2 which is 60. Likewise, all the constraints can be written. So this is 1, this is 2, all right, and this is 3, 1 2 3, and lastly xij greater than equal to 0 makes your generalized formulation of the transportation problem, right? And this is this and this, and lastly xij greater than equal to 0 where for I equal to 1 to m and j equal to 1 to n. Okay, in your case, in this case, m is equal to 3 and n is equal to 4. Right? This is the LPP formulation. Okay, the things are enough till this point, but I like to go a little ahead in this lecture. I will be having certain discussions on the formulation of this transportation problem. Now, total variable this problem has, how many total variable this problem has? We have seen those are 12. Total variable this problem has are 12. Alright. Why? Because there are three plants, and there are I have indexed them as 1, 2, 3, and there are four destinations. Okay, thereby you have 12 variables. Okay, 4 into 3, 12 variables, right? And how many constraints your problem has? There are three constraints for three plants. Those are called as capacity constraint, and there are four constraints for four destinations. Those are called as requirement constraint. So 3 plus 4 is equal to 7 constraints are there. So the number of constraints is equal to number of plants plus number of destination, right? So in general case, number of variables will be equal to m into n, right? And number of constraints is equal to m plus n, right? Number of constraints will be equal to, in any generalized transportation problem, number of variables the transportation problem will be dealing with is equal to m into n, and number of constraints is equal to m plus n. This is the LPP formulation of the transportation problem. Now when you solve this problem, okay, and try to get, when you solve, because this sounds to be like a problem which we have handled by a simplex method. So when you will be trying to solve this problem by simplex method, you will be starting your first iteration with 7 constraint rows with 7 basic variables, and those basic variables will go on getting replaced by new basic variable, and this is how you will be reaching to the optimal solution. And in our optimal solution, it is guaranteed that 7 variables out of 12 variables will be having value greater than or equal to 0. They will be 7 variable will be there finally in your optimal solution. Okay, 7 variables will be having values in optimal solution. All right, 7 variables are going to have the value. Okay, in general, if I want to say how many variables in general, m plus n variables are going to have values in your optimal solution. Out of m into n variables, m plus n variable will have the values remaining will will be 0. Okay, their values will be 0. Okay, m plus n variables will be having values greater than equal to 0, right? This is important discussion. We will be getting the significance of this what we have discussed here just ahead. Now I am going to make a little change in this formulation. Okay, what kind of change I'll be making? Just look here. Now, when I'll be redrawing this table, okay, uh, redrawing this table. So here you see that the total of capacity and requirement, it is obvious in this case that that should be equal. Okay, so first of all, let us check whether it is equal. If I want to satisfy the requirement of all the destinations, it is must that I must have the capacity enough to satisfy the requirement. That means capacity should be equal to requirement. So let us find out whether the capacity is equal to requirement or not. Total capacity comes out to be 60 plus 10 plus 100, that is equal to 170. Okay, and the sum of the requirements is 70 plus 60 plus 40 plus 20. It happens to be much 60 plus 40 is 100, 170, 190, 190. Okay, total requirement is 190, but the capacity is 170 only. So, if it is possible for me to balance the capacity and requirement, then probably I will be having the different consideration, different inclination toward this problem. So, what I do, I try to balance the requirement and the capacity. How can I do that? I am falling short of capacity by how much? 20 unit. The difference between this two 190 and 70, 170 is 20 units. So what I will be doing, I will be taking one dummy plant whose capacity is 20. In that case, my sum of the capacity is equal to 190 and requirement also will also be 190. So what I'll be redrawing this table here, and that I have already done everything drawn here, but I will be adding one new row, and that I'll be calling as dummy plant with the capacity 20. Okay, now this total is 190 and this is also 190. Both are 190. All right, clear? Now, what remains is what value, what quantity, what is the cost per unit of transportation from dummy to D1 I should add. Okay, I can physically, by thinking on it physically, I can take all the cost of transportation from dummy to any destination zero physically, and mathematically also. It can be proved that you can put any value here, and zero has the computational benefits. It saves your time, so you put all the values zero here in the dummy row you add. Now what if the case would have been otherwise? Otherwise means you would have had the sum of the requirement equal to 170 and sum of the capacity equal to 190. In that case, to balance the capacity and requirement, you will be adding the dummy column. Okay, whatever is short, requirement is short, so you add a dummy column, and the capacity is short, you add the dummy row. Okay, that's simple. So just you have to make sure that the total of the capacity comes equal to total of requirement. For that, whatever you want to add, you add, right? In this case, in the prevailing case, we have added dummy row. But if the requirement is shorter than the capacity, you will have to add the column. Okay, requirement, you will have to add the requirement. Adding the requirement means adding the column. All right, now in this problem, what has happened earlier, I had 3 rows and 4 columns. Okay, now there are 4 rows and 4 columns. What is happening because of this? Now the total number of variables, now suppose say I want to formulate this. There is technically no difference in this and this problem. Okay, this and this problem. Okay, but one difference, it was obvious for me to think that I must have the balance in capacity and requirement, and I made certain adjustment in this problem and got this one. Okay, except for this consideration, which is very obvious, there is no difference in both the problems. Both the problems should give you same solution. All right, but still, what I'll be doing, I will be formulating this problem. Okay, while I do the formulation, okay, just take a look towards the number of variables I'll be having. Total number of variables, total vars in new problem. In balanced problem, I'll write how many are they now? Okay, because there are 4 rows and 4 columns, that is equal to 4 into 4. That is equal to 16. 16 variables I have. Okay. And number of constraint in balanced problem. How many? Because we have the constraint for each plant and for each destination. So now total plants are 4 and total destinations are 4. So 4 plus 4, that is equal to 8 constraints will be there. Earlier these figures were 12 and 7. Okay, now I am having new problem. I'll be having new problem. You can just imagine that problem. I won't be writing it complete. Okay, I just write few terms of it and few constraint. Minimize z equal to, okay, it will turn out to be 3x11 plus 4x12 plus 12x13 plus 8x14 plus 3x21 plus 2x22, so on up till plus 0x 0x41, sorry, 42 plus 0x43 plus 0x44. There will be how many terms? 16 terms will be there in your objective function, and you can very well write all those. Constraint more or less will be like this. Okay, x11 plus x12 plus x13 plus x14. See where from the constraint is coming. X11 plus x12 plus x13 plus x14 is equal to 60. You can write now because there is a balance. Okay, okay, is equal to 60, right? Then or in general, you, there is no harm in writing less than equal to 60, but because there is the balance, I know very well that this will be equality type constraint. Then another constraint will be, now set I equal to 2x21 plus x22 plus x23 plus x24 will be equal to 10, and so on. By setting x I equal to 3, then I equal to 4, I'll get 2 more on the capacity side. Mm, right? Even the fourth constraint, see, you don't get confused with all these are zeros, so that there won't be fourth constraint. It is not because of this coefficient I am writing that constraint. I am writing that constraint for the total quantity which is to be transported from dummy to all destination should be equal to 20. So it will come like x41 plus x42 plus x43 plus x44 is equal to 20. Okay, these are costs, these are not the multipliers to be used in this constraint. Then the requirement constraint will go like x11 plus x21 plus x31, x31 plus x41 should be equal to 70. Now, in place of having greater than equal to constraint, you can have it equal to, because what you did is you have already balanced the problem. Whatever, now you can very well claim that D1's requirement is going to be 70 total. Okay, and that is going to get satisfied from A, B, C, and dummy. So sum of all the allocations which you do in this column should be 70 exactly, right? Then another constraint will go like by setting j equal to 2, j equal to 3. I'll be lastly writing fourth constraint, x what's that, x14 plus x24 plus x34 plus x44 is equal to 20. Okay, this will be the formulation. physically both the problems. The first one where which I'll be naming as unbalanced problem, and this is simply the balanced version of it. Okay, which obviously anyone will get tempted to balance the problem. So that temptation doesn't make the problem different from the original one. Okay, so this formulation and the earlier formulation both should give you the same result. Okay, so suppose say you have on one side m into n variable, m into n variable unbalanced problem. Unbalanced means wherein the capacity and requirements are not balanced. Unbalanced problem. Okay. M unbalanced problem will have how many constraints? M plus n constraints will be there. All right. And on the other side, you have suppose say m into n variable balance problem. That also will have m plus n constraints. Okay. But in unbalanced problem, all m plus n variables, m plus n, there will be m plus n because per variable you take a basic, per constraint you take a basic variable. If you solve this problem by simplex method, so there will be m plus n variables. M plus n variables will have value. Will have value in optimal solution. Okay, on this side, like for example, in this problem which we have formulated, there are 7 constraints. It implies that 7 variables will be having value in optimal solution. But the same problem is formulated here and it has 8 constraints now. You will find that when you solve this problem, there are 7 variables only which has value. The solution for this problem and the solution for this problem both are same. Here you have got 7 variables to have value. Here also you will get 7 variables will be having value greater than 0. Greater than or equal to 0, and one will essentially come 0 in when if you solve the problem with 8 constraints. It implies that one of the constraint in this problem is redundant constraint. You can eliminate this. If you remove any one of the constraint out of this 8, you will get the same solution. You will still get the same solution. So out of this 8 constraint, one you can always eliminate. Okay, why you can eliminate? The reason for being able to eliminate is that one more constraint unknowingly you have taken, and that constraint is balancing. Okay, total requirement is equal to total capacity. By taking that constraint, by inserting that constraint into this problem, okay, you can take out one constraint out of this problem. That constraint is not visible in this problem. Okay, the visibility is because we were able to make all the signs equality type. Okay, all the signs we were able to make of equality type. That is the visibility of the balancing which we have thought of in this problem. Capacity equal to requirement is that way accommodated into this formulation. So that one constraint invisibly added into this formulation to get this one allows us to take out one constraint. So effective number of constraints in this problem are m plus n minus 1. Okay, even though you are going ahead with m plus n constraints, but the effective constraints in the balance problem or m plus n minus 1. In unbalanced problem, all of them are effective. All 7 were effective. But in balanced problem, because of the balance, which is a constraint in itself, you can take out one constraint. Anyone you don't like, okay, or anyone by closing your eyes, you can take out one. Okay, still getting you the same solution. One constraint is redundant. Okay, so this implies that your balance problem and the method which is coming ahead will be dealing with balance problem only, because it is very easy for us to convert unbalanced problem to balanced problem. Okay, that you have seen. You either have to add a row or a column depending upon what is short. Okay, so we will be solving unbalanced problem only, and in unbalanced we will be solving balanced problem only, and in balanced problem m plus n minus 1 variables out of m into n variables will have value in optimal solution, right? That is to say, there will be m plus n minus 1 allocations normally. Okay, normally there will be m in this big matrix. For example, this one. Now, how many allocations will you be expecting? M plus n minus 1. Why? Because this is a balance problem. Your m is 4, n is 4, 4 plus 4, 8 minus 1. You are removing because of redundancy, additional constraint being there. Okay, that we are going to remove out. So, total 7m plus n minus 1. 7 variables are going to have the value greater than equal to 0. Okay. Suppose say you come across a case wherein there are lesser than m plus n minus 1 variables, or lesser than m plus n minus 1 allocation. Okay, m plus n minus 1 allocations are there. Okay, that is called as degeneracy in allocations, degeneracy in transportation problem, degeneracy in transportation problem. All right. Normally there must be m plus n minus 1 allocation. If you get allocations lesser than m plus n minus 1, that is referred as degeneracy, means the allocations have reduced. Okay, but you won't be allowing degeneracy to be there. You will be filling up some allocations from your side, okay, to make the total of allocations equal to m plus n minus 1. Total count of allocation must be equal to m plus n minus 1. Okay, so this m plus n minus 1 figure is very important in transportation model. Okay, so in next lecture, our agenda is going to be, can we solve this problem by the simplex method which you have studied? Okay, what are the problems in handling it by simplex method? What is another way? What is the, because this is a specially structured problem. See here, what is so specific in the formulation of these problems? Okay, you find that the constraints in this problem have either the coefficients 1 or 0. If you explain this constraint will all with all 16 term with all in this problem, in fact there are 12 terms, 12 variables. So if in each of the constraint you write all 12 variables, then you can see that the coefficient of each variable is either 1 or 0. Okay, unlike the formulations which you have seen in LPP, which is solved by simplex method, those used to be anything. Okay, but here it is very specific about every constraint that the variables are having the constraint variables are having coefficient either 1 or 0. Okay, so that makes this problem specially structured. Okay, and after balancing, the constraints are of equality type. Okay, all the constraints are equality type. Okay, there are total m into n variables and m plus n constraints in balanced problem, out of which m plus n minus 1 constraints are important. Okay, so you get values for m plus n variables. Right, so this is a specially structured problem. So we'll be seeing is there any possibility of solving this by this formulation by any approach other than simplex method. Okay, so here we will be stopping our class. In class 2 we'll be soon meeting.